Now, this is what you get when backing a film project within its early stages. Cool swags as a mean of appreciation from the fine folks at Creative VC. And now that the unboxing is over, here is my review and summations of In Search of Darkness Part 3. In filmmaker David Weiner's and Creative VC's third and final installment of the 80s retrospective horror superdoc In Search of Darkness, it leaves no gravestone unturned as our colorful cast of commentators from the previous ISOD docs like John Carpenter, Joe Bob Briggs, Doug Bradley, who's Pinhead, Garetta, Kelly Maroney, Jackie Kong, Corey Taylor, Cecil Trachtenberg of Good Bad Flicks, and Jeff Rolfe, who is otherwise known as the Angry Video Nerd Cinemassacre, among a few others. There are also a few unfamiliar faces as well, like Richard Newby screening Mad George, Tracy Toms, Sam Weinman, David Gregory, etc. So, is the third time a charm? Following a quote from director John Carpenter, there's that prelude followed by the documentary's intro theme courtesy of Wayward Pines. The commentator segments still have that VH1 I Love the 80s format with copious amounts of trivia when dissecting a random selected film from ISOD's infamous poster wall. Primary examples include which actor opted out of a sequel only to be replaced by a close relative of a very well-known rock star, which director opted out of a promising sequel to direct the underperforming film starring Whoopi Goldberg, the VHS explosion, how the horror movie industry was saved by the home video mom and pop stores, resulting in many of the so-called moral majority witch hunts that's concerned parents, aka soccer moms, the news media, religious fundamentals, and of course politicians who subscribe to the theory that horror films can have a very negative impact on children who watch them. As with the previous installments, we go through the 80s timeline from 1980 to 1989, discussing films that were either obscure cult classics or schlock movies that were very vilified for being video nasties or just very bad flicks. Within the first 2 hours, I couldn't help but laugh at those Gene Siskel scathing critiques from sneak previews, which comes off as an ongoing dig, where interject his commentaries and disdain for various horror films. During the first 20 minutes, it seems that Weiner and company are scraping at the bottom of the barrel when discussing lesser-known overlooked films such as Death Ship the Children, Fear No Evil, Phenomena, and various foreign movies. But there were plenty of films left over to cover, even those from Dario Argento and the godfather of gore himself, Lucio Fulci. That said, the other favorite segments were Culture Shock, which cites the influences from Asian horror, Visionary Horror Directors, that gives a shout out to the inventive minds within the genre's industry, and then there's Beneath the Surface, which focuses on diversity and marginalization in 80s horror, where our commentators discuss representation or lack thereof and common stereotypical depictions of Black, Asian, and LGBTQ people. In the segment that serves as the closer for this documentary, I can understand why someone would champion the films that they cherish, as I often have, but there were some awfully bad ones throughout the 80s that are beyond defending. But that's just my opinions. Your mileage, however, may vary. Joe Dante and William Lustig give interesting thoughts about the current landscape of cinema, with home video having eclipsed the theatrical experience, while Sam refers to the common trend of gatekeepers who decide what is good or what is terrible. As always, it is the commentators whose opinions and personal connections to the horror genre that serves the meat and bones for this 6-hour entree. However, I managed to compile a list of must-see films that either I wasn't aware of or just skipped altogether. Unlike Gene Siskel, I give In Search of Darkness Part 3 2 thumbs up. That being said, I highly recommend you take advantage of the flash sale that's going on, which also includes In Search of Darkness Part 1 and 2. Quantities are very limited, so as they say back in the 80s, act now.